Today we want to pick up on the why of implementation science, and we want to build more on the 3-box model of implementation. Remember, box 1, you prepare the soil, enable the context. Box 2, you get the right seed for your context. And box 3, you sow the seed in the right way. So we're going to look at implementation drivers, and specifically we're going to look at one implementation driver. It's the leadership implementation driver. It's so important it gets a driver all to itself. You're all leaders. And this driver is situated in box 3, but it also works in box 2. We'll be looking at some of the practices of leadership. What are the practice model for leadership that leaders need to do to get the outcomes that leaders are after? And we'll be looking at the enabling the context, preparing the soil. Because the number one job of a leader is to create the context that allows for the conditions to evolve. So what we're looking at in implementation drivers is we've got 3 sets of them. Remember, we've got working with the self, working with the team, working with the system. In this segment, we're looking at the working with the self. So I want to put this concept on the table about the difference between management and leadership. In my mind, management is about getting the trains running and keeping them running on time. It's a really important job for a leader to make sure that your system is working. Leadership is a little bit different. It's about change and developing your system. It's about where is your system, where's the potential in your system, where's the next evolution for you folks to emerge into. So you have a system that you need to keep running, but you also need to evolve that system into its growing area. When you look at the time it takes to spend on the management, it's about 80% of our time. Most of our tasks as leaders are in this management field. They're technical. They're things we already know how to do. It's the adaptive piece. It's the change piece where we don't know what to do because we're trying to evolve. And by definition, we don't know what the next stage is. That's what we call adaptive leadership. And we call the management area, technical leadership. They're both very important skills, but they're very different skills. And let me give you an example of what I mean about adaptive and a technical. So you've got adaptive challenges and technical challenges. When I worked in the Oregon Department of Corrections, over an 8-year period, we built 6 new prisons. The governor, the people of Oregon passed new laws. We knew we were going to need new prisons. New prison beds. The governor said, do you know how to run prisons? Do you know how to build prison? Yes, sir, we do. It was a male governor at the time. So we got this boatload of money and said, go ahead, build the prisons. That's what we did. 6 new prisons in 8 years. Those prisons went up. Thousands extra people. We went from 8,500 to 14,500 people in prison overnight almost. It was so easy. Why was it so easy? Because we already knew how to build prisons and we knew how to run them. We just did more of what we were doing already. So if you think about it, that was a technical challenge, right? A big challenge, cost a lot of money, took a lot of time, but we did it. Now, an adaptive challenge. What's an adaptive? What's the difference? Well, for about 30 years in the department, we've been thinking about solitary confinement. There's something up about this solitary confinement. We're using it, and you know what? We have about 1,000 people every day in solitary confinement. And it doesn't look like it's working because the people who release, we did a little study, and the people who release from our prisons in solitary, they're more likely to hurt people when they get out. So they're more dangerous when they get out. And not only that, some people in Europe and the United Nations say that if you keep people in solitary for more than 15 days, it's torture. Well, we don't torture people in America. But we had people in solitary for up to a year, for 2 years. So how do we change our system to run it without solitary confinement? We don't really know how to do that in America. I don't think there's a prison knows how to run its prisons without solitary. In Germany, they don't have solitary. In Norway, they don't have solitary because they know how to do that. But for us, this is an adaptive challenge. We have to do this amazing turn. We have to change if our system's going to change. That's about enabling the context. So technical challenge, adaptive challenge. Take a look at this little video quickly just to give you an image for a technical challenges. You can see this skyscraper going up overnight, right? Every detail, every bolt and every nut is thought about ahead of time and is planned, and it works. That's the beauty of technical leadership. You can really achieve a lot with technical leadership. Adaptive leadership is about people. It's about us changing. It's not about us building something outside of ourselves. Let's look at the leadership tasks from the adaptive side of things. So instead of defining the problems and providing the solutions, you get on the balcony. You don't know what the problem is. You don't know what the solution is. So you need to take time. And that's a difficult thing for leaders to do when they're going 50 minutes a mile. You got to get on the balcony, you get on the balcony, you got to see the whole thing before you. And here's the hard thing. You've got to see what you're doing on the dance floor. Not only what your staff are doing, what's happening, what are the patterns in the agency here, because that'll give you a clue to what the real problem is. So you define the problem, you define the questions that you want people to be inquiring into. Now, you can't do this by a top-down approach because everybody is part of the problem. So you can't bring in an expert to tell you what the problem is. The expert doesn't know. They know how to build skyscrapers. They don't know how to change your system, how to build a new culture, how to evolve. But everybody in your agency does. So you have to have a top-supported but bottom-up approach here. Top-down doesn't work for this. That's difficult for us in criminal justice because we're used to top-down. Second thing is protecting. Instead of then protecting your staff and taking the pressure off your staff, you have to put a little bit of pressure on your staff, right? Why? And pressure on the system, because if there's no pressure, there's no change. It's almost like that, I don't know if you know those old pressure cookers that your granny used to cook with. The vegetables are in it and they have that little bobble at the top, and you need to get some steam going up so the vegetables to cook. So you have the bobble just trembling like that. Now you don't want too much pressure or it'll blow off, but if it's too little pressure, it goes limp. You get no cooked vegetables. So take, for example, the Black Lives Matter, Proud Boys, all of these conflicts that are going on, and they're focused on the criminal justice system. They're focused on the thin blue line. They're focused on what's going on in corrections. We should really be welcoming that pressure because it's telling us what needs to change. It's telling us there's a problem and it's helping us to identify. So we don't need to be defensive. We need to welcome that in because it's helping us to grow. Now, at orientation, instead of clarifying, you got to stay in the new zone where roles are changing. Maybe I have a new job than I thought. I thought I was to nail them and tail them, and maybe my job now is a different job. So there's some role confusion and there's role disorientation, and that's okay. You have to create the conditions for people to stay in that zone long enough to emerge into new ways of thinking and new roles. Finally, with the conflict. Instead of resolving the conflict and stopping it, you've got to bring it out. This is the hard thing. You've got to go into the conflict and inquire into it, because that will tell you, where is the pebble in my shoe? Where is my shoe pinching? What's the deal in my agency that's really causing this conflict? That'll tell you what the adaptive challenge is. Let's face it, we have not been a healing environment. We've been damaging people at some level. We've been making mistakes. We need to reverse that damage. There are injustices built into our system. So think about our topics: diversity, equity, and inclusion. Which of you think we're doing a good job on that? Which of you think that's a technical challenge? It's not a technical challenge. It's been going on since the birth of the prison system in America. This is a recurring issue that we need to progressively evolve into working with it. These are difficult, risky topics. Implementation science is the same. To go from a train and pray model, which we've been doing for the last 30 years in the What Works movement. This works, okay, go train in that. This works, okay, go train in that. It's not working. So it's an adaptive change for us to put on an implementation science hat and to follow the science. Collaboration, leadership, cross-agency collaboration. It's difficult work. It's difficult to collaborate with your family, with your wife and daughter and kids, right? You know that discord emerges anytime in any group. So how do you work with the discord? How do you work with that so you've got collaborative leadership? There are 3 big topics. They're all adaptive. In the next section, we'll be going deeper then into the implementation science and how that can help us to meet these challenges.